Welcome here to more TALKFCB and welcome back to the channel, guys. Got a press conference reaction coming up for you today ahead of what is a vital game for Barcelona and for Ronald Koeman. It's the second leg of the Copa del Rey semi-final against Sevilla, and of course Koeman, today, he was asked about all those off-the-field issues, not just about what happened yesterday, but right the way through his tenure. Some interesting answers for you guys. It's coming right up. Let's get to it. But if we kick off, first of all, with some positive news on the injury front, because very surprisingly, when it looked as though he was guaranteed to be out for this game, this morning, Pedri trained without any problems, and with the rest of the group, he was absolutely fine, and everybody really was very shocked by that this morning, because it was rumoured that he was going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks with a calf issue. So Koeman, of course, naturally was asked, what's the situation with Pedri? Can you explain exactly what's happened there? And he did say, well, there's some things you just can't explain. He said yesterday afternoon, I was personally really surprised that he said to me he wasn't feeling any pain. He said today he trained without any problems. So he said, yeah, he could well be included in the squad list, which is going to be released tomorrow morning. Unfortunately, though, the news was not so positive when it comes to Ronald Koeman. Of course, went off against Sevilla. It did seem to be as though we rushed him back a little bit too soon, and for that reason he had some discomfort. He did not train with the group this morning. Koeman said there, Araujo didn't train with us. He still has some discomfort. We're going to wait until tomorrow morning to decide whether he makes the squad or not. But personally, looking at that right now, I think we do need to wait for him to be absolutely right now. We don't want to rush him back. We don't want any more sort of relapses. We don't want to risk anything if he's not ready. I don't see him playing against Sevilla tomorrow. And of course, guys, it did not take long for the questions to start coming in about what happened yesterday, which, you know, over on the main channel, you may have seen Bartomeu was arrested. Nothing crazy going on, nothing at all. But of course, Koeman was asked there whether he felt as though it was a bad look for the club in terms of the club's image. Is it not something that you'd like to see? And Koeman said, of course, it's not a good image for the club. He said it's not a good look. These are things that you don't want to happen to the club. He said we'll have to wait and see what happens. Obviously, I can't say too much. He said we have to focus on our work. Everything else is out of my hands. But he said it's not good to see, and the kind of answer you would have expected from Koeman, who couldn't really go much further into it than that. But he was then asked, quite interestingly, do you feel bad for Bartomeu? Looking at the way this has happened, do you feel bad for him? Now, this answer here I feel as though may go under the microscope. Koeman said when the news came out, of course I felt bad because I know Bartomeu and Oscar Grau very well. He said, so yeah, I do feel bad for them. I shared important moments with them. Bartomeu, for me, has always been an exceptional person. Now, obviously, I think I speak for most of us when I say, you know what, we do not share those kind of sentiments, but also here, you got to take into account what else is Koeman going to say. Bartomeu and Oscar Grau, they were the people that brought him to the club, effectively gave him the job that he has today, so I didn't really expect anything too crazy to come from Koeman on this issue. But he was then asked as well about the presidential situation that's going on right now in terms of all the different debates this morning as well. There were some quotes coming out from Laporta and indeed Victor Font, and Koeman was basically asked there, when these debates are going on, Xavi's name, it comes up much more than yours does. Does that worry you? Now, Koeman came back, he said, I'm not worried about that. He said, I'm not worried at all about that. He said, I've got a contract here. He said, names will come up, of course they will, but he said, it doesn't worry me. He said, once we know who the new president is, of course we're going to sit down, we're going to talk, we have to see what the plans are. But he said, right now, all we're doing is focusing on our work. And I think given there's so much always, it's constant off the field, there's things going on around Barcelona, that did prompt here some questions about Koeman, about the way that he's feeling, and he was asked there about whether, yes, becoming the Barca coach was his dream, but does he feel as though right now he's in the best place, but at the worst possible time? Koeman said all clubs go through difficult times. He said it's true that lots of things had happened throughout this season. He said in the end, though, what matters is what happens out on the pitch, the unity that you create as well in the dressing room. He said we know what problems we have. We got to try and solve them. He said until the last day that I'm here, I'm always going to give my maximum for Barca. And that's something there that we never doubted with Koeman, whether you like him, whether you don't, whether we're happy with him, whether we're happy with results. One thing that I can never deny about him, he is always going to give his all, because I do believe he cares about the club. Koeman was then asked, though, do you still want to continue? Do you still feel the same way as when you first arrived to the club in terms of your motivation? Koeman said, my motivation is exactly the same as when I arrived. He said, I knew that coming here as a coach during COVID, it was going to be tough, and everything else that's happened as well. He said, if I didn't want this, though, I'd leave. He said, I'd probably go on holiday or something. He said, but no, I want to be here. The journalist, though, really did press him on this topic because he was then asked, would you make the same decision again? If you could go back and choose to come here or choose not and stay with the Netherlands, would you do so? And Koeman said, the day they called me to come, I was convinced that I was going to accept it. He said, I knew that it would be a complicated time. I knew that it was going to be a difficult moment. I knew the club were losing money because of COVID, so changing the squad, it would be more difficult. But he said that also I knew then I could use the younger players a bit more. He said, lives have ups, they have downs. He said, you've got to face up to, though, the problems. You've got to try and get through them, and that's no different at all to what's happening right now at this club. And at long last, we did finally get some questions about the game itself, about what is, like I say, a massive game for Barça tomorrow against Sevilla. Koeman was asked there, do you believe in the comeback? You're 2-0 down, can you come back from this and make the Copa del Rey final? Koeman said, we know that 2-0 is tough to overcome, it's a difficult scoreline. He said, but we have demonstrated that the team is hungry for this, that we're mentally ready to take on this challenge. He said, we do need to be more efficient in front of goal, and of course keep a clean sheet, which Koeman said there, that's vital tomorrow, not conceding. And speaking of the game tomorrow, and indeed looking back at the game that we played against Sevilla on Saturday, Koeman was asked there whether we could see a repeat of the 3 centre-back system that we saw work so well on Saturday. And I think he get his cards pretty close to his chest. I think the most important thing of any system, it's the mentality of the team. That we work hard, that we press our opponents. He said it doesn't matter if we have 3, 4, 5 centre-backs. He said the most important thing is our pressing and doing it together. He said because when we have the ball, we play very well. So Koeman there focusing on the pressing element, which I thought worked really well on Saturday with the system that we had, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see the same sort of setup on Wednesday. Finally, though, the last question indeed of the press conference I think was a very fitting one, given all the questions that went before it. Koeman was asked basically that today, in this press conference, there has been so many different questions not about the game. The focus here at Barcelona, it doesn't always seem to be on the football. There is always something going on outside the field, and we as fans know that only too well. And Koeman said, maybe it's because this is the biggest club in the world. He said everybody is looking towards Barcelona. Everybody wants to know what's going on. He said, I'm used to facing these kind of questions by now. He said, you know that the press want answers. I don't have any problem with that. He said, but I just think it's because Barça, it's a huge club. It's massive here. And that's why it happens. And so that right there, guys, was what we heard today in the press conference from Ronald Koeman, who believes that tomorrow against Sevilla, we can make that comeback. The feeling right now amongst us Barca fans, given the events over the past few days, it's very positive. But what we have to do now is keep that going. The team tomorrow have got to come together, find it within themselves to make that comeback. And of course, over on TALKFCB, later on, the full match preview is coming your way with plenty of talk about the system we could use. Thank you indeed for watching, guys, and I really do appreciate all of your support and your comments. I'll see you soon. But until next time, as always, Visca el Barça.